who attended UA together way back in the day and dreamt of one day forming a hero team. Everything in this video is canon and comes directly from the spin-off manga, of which I've done a few videos on recently, so do be sure to check out those ones after this one. And at the very end, I'll explain where Shirakumo is in the current series, although I'll give a big spoiler warning, so no need to worry about that. But without further ado, let's get into it and don't forget to sub. Around 15 years before the current series, Aizawa and Shirokuma were both students in Class 2A, and part of a friendship group with Present Mike. Now, this storyline in Vigilantes began with Aizawa standing in the rain on his way to school, contemplating whether or not he should save this abandoned cat. Ultimately, he decided to leave it there because he wasn't prepared for the responsibility of raising it. But he did give up his umbrella so at least the cat wouldn't get drenched in the rain, which is, a pretty nice thing to do. During this period of his life, Aizawa suffered from significant self-esteem issues, and so when he made the sensible decision not to take the cat, in his mind he felt like a failure because he was unable to truly save it. Due to the nature of his quirk, he believed himself to be completely powerless and just really an ordinary person who could never live up to heroes like All Might. That's why, when he made it to school that day, he declared that he had a hard time picturing himself ever becoming a hero. Now, naturally, Present Mike took this statement as an opportunity to joke around because nearly everyone except Aizawa realizes that his erasure quirk is truly one of the best around. And this scene is where Shirokuma makes his first ever appearance in the series, as he uses his cloud quirk to fly up to the 3rd floor of UA and then just let himself in through the window. For those of you that haven't seen my video ranking the best quirks in Vigilantes, Shirokuma can create these dense clouds which are capable of carrying heavy objects, and he can also manipulate their size and their movement with telekinesis. On his arrival, Shirokuma handed Aizawa back the umbrella that he had left in the rain earlier, and proceeds to strip naked in front of the entire class. And I'll explain why he stripped naked in a second, but I think now is a good time to tell you that it was Horikoshi who designed Shirakumo in order to give Aizawa a Mirio-type character in his past. Many of you know this already, but Horikoshi does not write Vigilantes, but he did work together with the writer of Vigilantes to actually flesh out this backstory that I'm telling you. And the reason he did this is because it directly ties into the My Hero Academia manga later down the road. Anyway, the reason Shirokuma was getting naked in front of everyone was to get rid of these wet clothes, as despite having Aizawa's umbrella right there, he just didn't use it for some reason. I can't really explain it either, but yeah, I mean, he gets naked in front of everyone and reaches into his crotch area and pulls out an absolute beast, which on this occasion happens to be this cat, which Shota had left behind. Unlike Aizawa's more rational approach, Shirakumo came across this cat and couldn't just leave it there. I mean, that pretty much exemplifies him as a character. Like, he's someone who's able to make short-term judgments without hesitation, but like I said, he doesn't really consider the long-term implications of that like Aizawa does. Moving on, as is expected from second years at UA, everyone had secured a work study with pro heroes with the exception of these guys, which is probably why Present Mike said they were referred to as the 3 Dummygos of Class A. Their teacher noted that Shirokuma was likely to get a work study because even though his grades were average, he has a super positive attitude, and similarly for Present Mike, whilst he was easily distracted, his quirk had a lot of different potential applications. On the other hand, their teacher believed that Aizawa would have a hard time getting any agency to accept him, as despite his good grades, he had no clear vision of what kind of hero he was trying to be, and as we know, that's because he couldn't really picture himself as a hero. This was partly demonstrated during a joint training exercise with Class B, where Shota was beaten by Sensoji. And this guy is literally just fake Bakugo. At this stage, Shota wasn't really much of a fighter, and fake Bakugo mocked him for the fact that Shota had nothing but boring tricks to offer. If you have the time, I would really encourage reading the Vigilantes manga and all of Sensoji's dialogue, just read it in Bakugo's voice. I'm telling you, it will change your life. Also, as a side note, Shirokuma kept bringing this cat into school each day, and Aizawa basically began raising it like his own son, but only during lunchtime. On one occasion, these guys were just chilling on the roof of UA, and Midnight was on her way back from a work study and happened to bump into them. She was already a year ahead of them at this point, so not too far away from being a pro hero, and her hero costume at this time was very interesting. Because this cat was super cute, Midnight wanted to take it off their hands and raise it herself, at least for the time being. And the dumb egos of UA were more than happy to let that happen, as they weren't really in a position to take care of it much longer themselves. Although, as Shirokuma says, I mean, when you examine the situation, they did just give the cat away to the first random girl who walked by. The following day, Present Mike secured a work study at a battle-focused hero agency, and he was joined by fake Bakugo. Meanwhile, these two still had no offers on the table, but luckily Midnight appeared out of nowhere again to show them this video of the cat pooping. And whilst that was a lovely gesture, she also brought the additional news that the Purple Revolution Hero Agency was accepting literally anyone for a work study. This agency was run by His Purple Highness, who was a flamboyant hero and also the artist formerly known as Prince. His philosophy is quite similar to All Might's in that he believes a hero's job is to smile and give hope to those who are in trouble, which is why he absolutely destroys Aizawa during his first day of the work study due to his trademark gloomy expression. On this occasion, a villain possessed a mutation quirk that allowed him to emit smoke out of the ding dong on his head. As a result, Aizawa couldn't erase his quirk because if he got too close, then the smoke would irritate his eyes, and if he was too far away, it wouldn't work because of all the smoke in the way. After the villain made his escape, Prince encouraged Aizawa to trust in his own power, and Shirakumo gave his friend the pair of goggles that he would typically wear on his head. And directly because of this help, when they encountered the villain a few days later, Aizawa confidently stood in his direct path and erased his quirk, and then evaded subsequent attacks. Shirokuma then swoops in, using his cloud as a trampoline, and just knocked the guy straight out. As His Purple Highness says, together they were almost equivalent to one single superhero, and if you look here, Aizawa was almost able to crack a smile. Once the new semester began, these two had a pair of goggles each, and according to Shirokuma at least, they were marketing themselves as a hero team. As a result, they were paired together in a practical assessment and would face off against Present Mike and Fake Bakugo. I should probably mention that Fake Bakugo has a quirk called Blast, and it lets him shoot these explosions directly out of his hands. They both have flashy quirks with tons of power, whereas Shirakumo and Aizawa, they more rely on technique. And if you notice here, Fake Bakugo wears sunglasses as a support item, otherwise his blast would apparently blind him during battle and thus reduce his accuracy. Because of this, he was annoyed with Aizawa and Shirakumo for supposedly copying him, despite the fact that he got the idea from Present Mike. He then challenges Shirakumo and Aizawa to a bet that whoever loses this team battle won't be allowed to wear any goggles in the future. But then for some reason, he proceeds to try and take them both on single-handedly, like he tells President Mike to stay back. Remember that at the beginning of the story, Aizawa was defeated by Sensoji, but when working together with Shirakumo, they easily combined to take him out and knock those glasses right off his face. As we can see in this panel, Aizawa's body language has improved dramatically since the beginning of this arc. When working alongside Shirakumo, he appears more confident and almost intimidating. But this was not the end of his development, my friends, as the three Domigos hatch a plan to start their own hero agency in the future. The plan was that Shota would nullify the villains, and then Present Mike and Shirakumo would swoop in and finish off the job. Although as we see in this panel, Shota initially interpreted this as them saying that he couldn't actually do anything on his own, and when we look at the type of hero that he became, it's clear that he worked super hard to overcome this insecurity, as we've seen time and time again that he's able to defeat, powerful villains just 1 versus 1 by himself. Now, just 1 week after this conversation, an event would happen that would drastically change the course of their entire lives. In this situation, a villain attack was underway in a place called TAS Amir, and I hope I said that right, and the hero team known as Buster Union was sent to take care of it. This is meant to be the hardest hitting hero team around, and they also had two interns who were Fake Bakugo and Present Mike. The criminal in question was this giant creature known as Garvey, who had already been convicted of several offenses, including murder. His quirk allows him to absorb the physical attacks of anyone and then store it in his back, and then he can release them at any point. Whenever he feels like it, he can shoot it right back at the heroes. And as we see, he was on a complete rampage, but once Buster Union showed up, they only made the situation worse, as they used their combined firepower to attack him, which then only gave him more ammo to use for his destruction. Garvey used some of his quirks to defeat them all in an instant, and whilst all this was going on, Aizawa and Shirokuma were in the neighborhood helping out with a group of kids. His Purple Highness and Midnight were a bit closer to the destruction, and they let Shirokuma and Aizawa know what was happening so that they could begin evacuation. But before they could even do that, Garvey appeared. Apparently he was actually pretty fast for a guy of his size, and his Purple Highness intervened to take him down, but just like the other heroes, he was easily blown away, and then he suffered a follow-up blast which was pretty brutal. As a consequence, the building began to crash down, with the debris heading straight towards these children here. We've already established that Shirakumo is a decisive thinker, like he can think quickly, right? And he instinctively creates a cloud which is dense enough to protect everyone from the falling concrete. However, in the process of doing that, he was unable to protect himself and was sadly hit in the head by a big slab, which is not something that most people come back from. What that meant is that at this moment, Aizawa is now the only one who's able to take on Garvey, but could you imagine how scary it would be to, your friend has just been mortally wounded and an entire hero team has been blown away and you're the only one who can, take him on 1 versus 1. Despite that, the formerly timid and unconfident Aizawa goes into full-blown hero mode and takes on this beast of a man all by himself. Using his crazy intelligence, his initial strategy was to go above Garvey's head so that any attacks he made would be directed to the sky. His second plan was to stare at these quirk balls and then kind of stop them from detonating and then kick them into the sky as high as possible, then enabling them to release at a safe distance. And this was all well and good, but Garvey was able to land a hit on Shota, which left him wondering how he could actually win the fight rather than just stalling. He then hears Shirakumo's voice telling him to get up and motivating him to carry on. The voice came from the speaker that Shirakumo usually carried around with him, and he usually carried this around as a support item to deceive enemies as to his location. And this pep talk from Shirakumo gives Aizawa the adrenaline boost that he needs to begin whooping Garvey. I'm talking punches to the eye, and then the finishing move, which was gathering all these stocked quirks and then releasing them inside of Garvey's mouth. Not bad for a second year student, not bad at all. With the battle seemingly over, Garvey is apprehended by the police and the wounded heroes are taken to be patched up. However, there is one person who didn't make it, and that, my friends, as you would expect, was Shirakumo. According to Sensoji, the speaker was broken the entire time, meaning that the words of encouragement that Aizawa was hearing, they just came from his brain like he was just imagining it, because it was a life or death situation. So even though he single-handedly defeated a villain that a top-rated hero team couldn't beat altogether, he had lost his best friend and teammate in the process. The potential future that they dreamt of together, it died in that moment and resulted in a big change for this character. Over the course of the next year, Shota performed intense solo training to become a true fighter, and according to President Mike, this is what caused him to become the sleepy guy that we know today, as he always needed to rest and recover. We see a few Class A students talking about, teaming up for the sports festival, but Shota, as you can see in this panel, he literally could not care less. This is because he has zero interest in impressing the hero agencies or the heroes who might be watching, and instead, he controversially set his sights on becoming an underground hero who specializes in anti-villain combat. This is quite unusual for UA graduates, as they normally always work at a hero agency before going independent. Additionally, he stopped caring about his academics like he used to, and he would stop trying once he achieved a passing grade. According to his teacher, the only thing he had passion for anymore was the battle exercises. The last fight that we see young Aizawa have at UA was a one-on-one clash with Fake Bakugo, and this time he absolutely floors him with an elbow to the chest. When you compare that to the beginning of the story, it's unreal how much he's grown in not too long of a period of time. And it makes you think, like, how much can the current Class 1A, how much can they grow in the present day, given that they have over 2 years before they graduate? On the day of Aizawa's graduation, everyone's getting ready to take class photos, but as President Mike goes to call him, Shota erases his quirk and then gives him a cheeky smile before immediately jumping off and beginning his epic hero career. For those of you who don't want to know major spoilers surrounding Shirakumo and his death and everything, then please sub to the channel and pause the video at this moment to avoid spoilers.